Now, the Senate committees on petroleum upstream and downstream have screened President Muhammadu Buhari's nominees for the positions of the chairman and members of the Nigeria Upstream Regulatory Commission. The chairman of the Committee on Petroleum Upstream, Senator Bassey Akpan, says the screening is in accordance with the provisions of the Petroleum Industry Act for the takeoff of reforms in the oil and gas industry. The Chief Executive Officer nominee of the Upstream Regulatory Commission, Benga Komalafe, says he will work to attract funding to Nigeria's oil and gas industry alongside embarking on value for money audit.
Brings to an end the screening process, after which we will then go into an executive session to consider the nominations one after the other, and then make appropriate recommendations to the plenary. This report, I assure you, will be late tomorrow. It will be considered and approved by the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
At the moment, there is a great challenge in financing big projects in the upstream. It's a very great challenge. There's a great challenge to investment. And the greatest challenge we have is in funding large projects. And it's a great challenge to the local, especially the local investors in the upstream. Mr. Chairman, sir, distinguished senators, in your wisdom, you combine both the technical and commercial activities of the Commission, as part of the regulatory activities of the Commission. So in implementing the commercial aspect, we will not only be a regulator. As a matter of fact, we intend under my watch to deliver a 21st century regulatory commission that will seek to intervene in how investors, will source funds for upstream projects.
Nigerian real estate company Northcourt has released its half-year 2021 real estate market review. That report looks at global macroeconomic trends as well as triggers in Africa's largest economy impacting the real estate sector. Joining us to review that report is Ayo Ibaru, the Chief Operating Officer and Director of Research at Northcourt Real Estate. Ayo, good afternoon. Great to see you. Take me through this half-year mobility trend chart. It seems physical workplaces are still yet in trouble.
Good afternoon, Bosun, and thanks once again for having me. I hope your day has gone well so far. So the Google Mobility Report tracks movement across the various subsectors as seen, when you track mobile devices, and it covers hospitality, it covers retail, and it covers office. Now, if we are speaking strictly on grade A office space, then yes, they are finding it challenging because employers are prioritizing employee health and safety, and they are choosing to alternate when staff come in, when staff stay at home. Sometimes they do it 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off. So that has led to a decline in space. Now, if we're looking at the B grade and then you go down C, D, E grade, and then you even go across to residential conversions in city centers, and then you look at even co-working arrangements, what you find is that there's a stabilization in demand in some areas, and it's actually going.
What does this mean for commercial real estate and revenue do you expect from those property?
Again, it's a difficult time for landlords and building owners in a space. The argument for increasing rents is getting difficult to execute, and we find that even the demand for space is not high, and it's unlikely to increase as the year wears out. Now, and when we get to Q1 of next year, there might be changes, and this is unlikely to be significant. So then again, landlords have to be a bit patient, and their terms have to be encouraging. They've been having it tough for the last couple of years, and one only hopes that this ends soon. But revenue for conversions in city centers, as I said earlier, and co-working spaces are likely to move up because the pandemic proves that staff can work home, and if they can, why not explore that option?
But again, if you speak to commercial real estate, you've got a chart that looks at shopping mall vacancy rates in other cities in Nigeria, such as Port Harcourt and River State. The vacancy rates seem to have come down, generally speaking. What's happening to shopping mall space in Port Harcourt, was the oil city, as it were?
So historically, Port Harcourt has been known as a rather unsafe place, to put it mildly. And that got the attention of the local security operatives, private security companies, and even the Nigerian police force. And they've found a way of agreeing as to how they can solve that problem. So what we find typically is that the police stay along the main roads, and then the inner streets and the private estates are manned by private companies. Now, what that does in the end is that it creates a semblance of peace, and that has been consistent for a while. Again, we find that more managers, more owners in Port Harcourt have set their eyes on the performance levels of the malls in Lagos and Abuja, and adopting some of the strategies. So they are a bit more tenant friendly, making it easy for tenants to pay their rents, and they're giving a very favorable term. So one might push the argument that a bit easier to get space and keep space and pay your rent in Harcourt Grade A more than they seem to have gotten to the sweet spot that puts a tenant.
Okay, Ayo, let's look at construction and real estate contributions as first quarter GDP contribution, which the data we had, 5.28% contribution from real estate. Construction contributed 4.2%. What's preventing these sectors from double-digit contributions if you look at the housing, whether commercial real estate deficit across the country?
It's a very good question you asked. Construction is known to contribute significantly to most emerging and advanced economies globally, but it is driven by sustained funding and funding on a very large scale. To risk being overly simplistic, we would need to double our investment in construction spending, and that usually starts with government as they push through structure agenda, and then private developers and construction firms also. If developers today want to raise funding for residential development, as we are aware, they typically use off-plan funding model. That's pretty much as good as it gets. Funding is critical, and if we're able to get that formula correct, it will pull up the real estate contribution, because as we know, the real estate contribution, as tracked by the National Bureau of Statistics, tracks the real estate services aspect of the broader built industry. So in one word, I would say funding.
Yes, Ayo, we're talking about funding. I keep talking, where is the money? We sitting on money, but it looks like nobody gets the money. So I keep asking, we have the mortgage finance industry, we've got the mortgage banks, then we've got a whole lot of federal mortgage bank, then we've got the NHF, we've got all of that. But everybody keep talking about cost of building materials, whether it is cement or paint or nails or whatever it is, stone and everything. So, talk me through this. Sometimes it gets really frustrating thinking about it.
Okay. So, Bosun, I sometimes get a bit concerned when you come at one question from different angles. It means I probably have to block myself properly. So, a large proportion of the materials that we use in this country are imported. And our currency is not as strong as it used to be. And so, except we are able to start creating this building material, start producing them locally, we will have to keep importing, and that means the pressure goes back to the currency. And
okay, so we produce cement. Ayo, respectfully, we produce cement. What else in terms of building materials should we produce locally? I know we produce a few electric cables. What else do we need to produce? locally?
I mean, everything from roofing tiles, even cement prices can come down. There was an argument we had to resolve a few months ago when, our producers here were, giving prices which are, maybe larger than what you find in other African, countries. And at the end of the day, we had to explain that it was the middlemen who kept pushing the prices up. So even our cement prices, as moderately placed as the year, can be lower. And then the other
Ayo, we always talk about cement, but again, that's your chart, your table there. You've got aluminum, you've got nails, you've got about other flooring materials. You talk about paints as well.
So our marble has to be Italian, and things of that sort. So yes, we import pretty much everything that we use to. And it's not that we can't develop it here, but then again, we still need the enabling framework to push through support for developing local material.
Okay, so do you think mortgages can get us out of it? You have a chart in your very robust report that shows Nigeria's mortgage providers compared to other African nations, yet in terms of the potentials and what is on the table, we're yet to meet that. Is this a case of a quantity versus quality or vice versa?
Yes, so when you look at the chart, it does suggest that we have a large number of mortgage firms that are not doing anything, and that's not the entire picture. In fact, I don't think that is the true picture. So mortgage banks, mortgage institutions are just a unit in the built industry, in the larger environment for housing, and they get their rates not from thin air, but from the national prime lending rates, and that's high enough already. And by the time those rates get pushed through the system, it gets into the hands of everyday consumer who can't afford rents that are double digits. So right now, if you're looking at mortgage rates, we are talking circa 25%. That's not something many can afford. So we have an operational environment that is difficult, that is discouraging to having friendly mortgage, and our mortgage rates right now can't get through any sustainable, solid housing.
Okay, let's leave it there for today. Thank you so much. We appreciate this very interesting chat with you, one of Nigeria's real estate sector. Thank you so much, Ayo from Northcourt.